This video is brought to you by 888 Poker, where if you use the code POKERGUYS, you get $20 free when you deposit $10.
You know what you want to do if you're a poker player? Play the World Series of Poker main event.
Absolutely.
And 888 is enabling that, starting with itty-bitty tiny buy-ins. You can get into the main event with a $12,500 package from 888. Check it out on 888 and play the World Series of Poker main event. Robert Mizrachi is, well, he's a Mizrachi. Those guys play pretty weird. And it's kind of fun to watch, that's for sure. They're great television. And he's going to be playing against Jake Cody in this PCA hand from a couple years ago.
Cody is the effective stack on the hand. He starts with about 36 blinds, and we did not hype this title. This may actually be the most confusing hand we've ever tried to break down.
It's weird, and we don't entirely get everything that happens, but we certainly do get that there are some bad plays in this hand.
Yeah, and maybe some incredible plays in this hand, too. It's a little hard to know.
Anyway, this hand was suggested on Twitter by Greg DeC. Tweet at us if you want to suggest a hand for the breakdown and include a YouTube link.
So if you wanted to see a particular kind of hand, tweet it at us.
Nice little sassy thing you did there.
We're going to break down this hand as we go, so get ready for some analysis.
Back to our secondary feature table. Mizrachi v. Cody. Heads up to the flop. Mizrachi with the best of it right now.
Checks his pair and gut shot. Cody the original raiser, and he did it from early, so my guess is he's going to keep trying to rep strength. Plus, sometimes he can even bet ace high for value when Rob's calling with just a gut shot.
9,500.
Jake really doesn't have much of a chance of catching anything on this hand.
Mizrachi calls. Boom. Ace on the turn.
As I was saying.
Mizrachi checks a second time.
Good spot for Jake to keep firing. A lot of players are going to bluff the ace on the turn or check back when they hit it, so betting it can sometimes be a little tricky.
His bet of 18,000 has just become 39,000 thanks to a check raise from Robert Mizrachi.
And Rob's raising here in what looks like a scare card, hoping that Jake's just double barreling or has a hand as weak as one pair.
Jake calls the raise.
Well, there's already a lot to talk about, and I promise there's going to be a lot more to talk about once we talk about the river, which is almost as crazy as this, if not more crazy. But we're going to have to chastise Robert Mizrachi a little bit here. We went in depth in our podcast trying to figure out why he would play his hand like this, and we struggled.
It's really, really hard to come up with good, reasonable thoughts about why someone would check raise 2-8s and a gut shot here. Here's some possible things that I can come up with that don't sound impossible or terrible. One is sometimes we can get slightly better hands to fold.
No, we can't.
Maybe we can get a jack to fold.
A jack never bets.
It seems unlikely a jack would bet, but also it's unlikely a bad ace would bet. So if a bad ace is going to bet, maybe a jack could bet too. It seems unlikely. For sure.
You don't expect a jack or a 9 to be betting here, right? So you're not trying to get out a jack or a 9.
I mean, I agree with that, of course.
Any ace has to call, right?
Well, because we made it so small. We made it very, very small, and that's problematic. But maybe we can fold out King Queen and King 10, which are hands that have reasonable equity against us, but are going to fold even to the small check raise because they won't realize they have the pair outs as well as their gut shot.
Okay, but that's not enough. Right?
Okay. This has to be paired with the idea that we are going to just move this guy in on the river.
Right.
And then so we're telling a story like, we flopped the nuts, we flopped 2 pair, we now have ace 9, whatever it is. And what are you going to do about it with your 1 pair hand, Jake Cody?
Right.
We can do that.
To Mizrachi's credit, this is a decent representation of the nuts.
Yeah.
He might just call with 8-10 on the flop, and now when the ace comes, he thinks he can get value. Fair enough. But it's hard to have the nuts. Let's think about his exact hand. Like I was saying, you really don't expect a 9 or a jack to bet, right? And if a weak ace does bet or any ace does bet, we're pricing them in. They have to call.
Yeah.
So this is just bad, right? Because the only hands we're folding out are hands that we're beating right now.
We're also pricing in all the draws, which is sort of weird. Any club draw is going to have to call. Queen 10 has to call.
Yeah.
For sure, right?
Yeah.
What else are they going to do?
There's no value to this raise. It's a bad raise.
It seems like it's a bad raise.
We're going to have a 120K pot and leave Cody with 83K, so we do set up a good bluff shove on the river, I suppose. But is that really good enough? This should just be a call or a fold, and usually a fold.
Right. And we can call if we think Cody's just going to rep that ace all day. Fine. We can call here. It's still pretty cheap. We can figure it out on the river. That's probably more optimal, meaning we make more chips in the long run doing it that way than check raising and bombing the river. But check raising and bombing the river isn't the end of the world.
At least if we have the plan that we're going to move Cody off of his 1 pair hands on the river by moving in, it makes it okay. okay-ish. Well, not really okay, but better than it could be.
And it does justify at least the smallness of this raise,
Yeah.
right? The tiniest, because it leaves Jake Cody with enough of a stack that we still have fold equity when we move on
I
to the
really
river.
wish Mizrachi would have just made it like 55K, so
Yeah.
at least sometimes he can fold out some of the one pair hands, but now he can't. I just don't get it.
It's weird.
No straight for Mizrachi on the river, just a pair of 8s. He checks.
Mizrachi couldn't pull the trigger on another bet. Good thing, too, because I think there's a good shot it gets called.
Jake has around 80,000 behind.
For most players, this is an easy check behind.
Not for Jake Cody. He moves all in.
Hachi Machi, I don't think this is turning his hand into a bluff. I think this is a really sick value shove. I just don't know how often it's getting called. Rob's not even beating third pair on board. I talk a lot about polarization, but this move is the opposite. It's a merge, and I love it. Sometimes better hands will fold, but mostly this is designed so when you're right, worse hands will hero call you, like the bat signal. The last time Rob thought this hard about a decision was over what kind of pomade to buy. Appropriate facial expression, check. Jake Cody giving away nothing.
Rob's seriously thinking about this.
That's what makes it such a great move, whether it gets called or not.
He calls.
All in call.
Rob just looked up Jake Cody lighter than a helium balloon. There must be some serious dynamic happening at this table. Absolutely masterfully played by Jake Cody.
Now, Joe Stapleton just said something pretty important. There's a serious dynamic going on at this table, and that has to be the case for this play by Jake Cody to be profitable at all in the long run, because on its surface, it's kind of nutty.
It is absolutely nutty. This is a hand full of confounding decisions.
Yeah.
Robert Mizrachi deciding to check the river
What
is
the hell, man? I mean,
Well-
it's upsetting me right now. It's upsetting me that Robert Mizrachi decided to check the river after he made this check raise on the turn where he's never getting a better hand to fold. What is he doing? What is he doing?
It's very odd. You think we've set up the bluff. We can bluff here. It's going to be very hard for Jake Cody to call with one pair of hands, even good aces, because we've done a reasonable, as Grant said last time, a reasonable representation of the nuts or something close to it. Jack 9 we can have ace 9, we can have all sorts of good things. Ace Jack, we can have sets, we can have everything that we've played this way.
And we would move in with those because Jake Cody might have an ace and we want to try to get value from that. And we don't expect Cody to do it himself and move in with an ace, right?
I mean, I wouldn't expect that. I would expect. So what I think is actually going on here, first of all, is Robert Mizrachi is giving up.
Yeah,
he's saying.
I mean, I guess, but why did he check raise the turn?
He shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But now he's sort of got his head back on straight.
Okay.
That was ridiculous, he's thinking to himself. Also the hair, but that especially. I should check. He'll check back his top pair. The hand is over. It's fine. And then Jake Cody doesn't check back top pair.
What Jake Cody does is move in with the middle of his range, which is why Robert Mizrachi is making this face.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't understand what Jake could have for value here.
I'd like to say neither do I.
Right.
Just to be clear, neither do I, Robert.
Robert Mizrachi calls, and we came to the conclusion on our podcast, surprisingly, that was maybe the most reasonable decision of the hand. I mean, it's definitely a high variance decision. Yes, for him. It's a high variance decision, and it's probably not a good one, but we understand why he did. Because when Jake does not move in on the turn, Mizrachi thinks Jake has a lot of queen 10 and a lot of club draws.
Yes.
So Jake is maybe feeling obligated to move in with those hands when it looks like Mizrachi has given up. And Mizrachi probably thinks that Jake would just move in on the turn with his two pair and better hands.
It just feels like Mizrachi didn't have enough of a plan on the turn about what happens if the draws come in or miss. Because if we think the draws are going to miss and then Cody's going to bluff, we should probably call the turn and consider calling a lot of rivers. But check raising to have the draws miss and then check calling, it seems like it doesn't make any real sense, right?
Well, I think it must come down to Mizrachi thinks Cody's only betting two pair and better for value on the river here.
Right.
And he didn't move in on the turn, so we don't expect many two pair and better. So we can call with our eights because Cody has a draw.
And let's be clear why, as Robert Mizrachi, we think Jake Cody's just not going to bet top pair here, even though he does. And it's because what is Jake supposed to get called by? Especially, by the way, with Jake's hand, which has no kicker.
No kicker at all.
And Jake, we believe, is moving in for value. We don't
Of
think
course.
he's trying to get a better hand to fold.
No, we don't think so.
So if that's the case, Robert has to call with Jack 10, pocket eights, a hand just like he has. It's so hard to imagine, in a normal game anyway, against normal opponents,
This is the dynamic, right?
that this would happen, but maybe they have some kind of crazy leveling war. We know Jake has already tweeted out, never bluff a Mizrachi,
Yeah.
based on trying to bluff Robert already in this game.
So he's trying to value him as Rocky, and guess what? It works amazingly well.
It does.
But it's hard to figure out this move in by Jake, even though it ends up looking incredible and hyper elite. It's hard to imagine getting called by worse like this, even though he does get called by worse. But I guess what Jake is thinking is when Robert checks the river, having check raise the turn, it's usually just not a good hand anymore.
Right.
He just doesn't have a good hand anymore, because why wouldn't he move in, for all the reasons I said earlier?
I mean, we can think of a few hands that are beating Jake that might do this exact thing. We wouldn't play the turn like that with ace 10 or ace 8, but maybe Robert Mizrachi would, because
Maybe.
it's kind of like what he did with pocket eights anyway. It's not too different.
Maybe.
And then ace 10, ace 8 is a hand that's beating us, and then still will feel obligated to call. Ace 10 may actually feel like if it moves in, it's folding out all worse hands and getting called by pretty much all better.
But
So,
Jake's not too worried about that, I guess.
I mean, it's only a few combos. We have an ace ourselves. It's not that much to worry
So
about.
Jake must be thinking, I think he has to be thinking, that Mizrachi has a lot of pair and gut shot type hands. Those are the type of hands he likes to check raise the turn with and not move in on the river with.
Sure.
I mean, I got nothing else, right?
No, me either.
Because how else can you move in for value here?
Is it possible Jake just has a laser sharp read on this guy? He sees him. When he check raises the turn, Jake knows he's actually pretty weak.
Maybe.
So that's why Jake, he calls to induce, and then he doesn't get the big bet, and so now he's going to shove because he thinks Mizrachi, he's just essentially always beating Mizrachi, so it's a free roll, which seems crazy and is not generally good poker, but Jake Cody seems to always know what he's doing, so far be it from me to question his play. I feel like I can't, especially because he was right. If he was wrong, maybe we kill him.
He was certainly right. That's the only decision we don't understand in this hand, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand why Robert Mizrachi did all the things he did.
No.
I understand that they're bad, and I can tell you why they're bad.
Well, we're just talking,
But
you're right.
when it comes to Jake Cody's move-in, I'm confused, and that's why this is called the most confusing hand ever.
Yeah, so Robert Mizrachi makes two decisions that we think are just incorrect and probably wrong. Cody makes this decision. We don't know if it's incorrect.
We have no idea what happened.
But it's amazing,
Yeah.
and it works to the letter perfectly. All right, Internet, we need your help.
Yeah.
Let's see some comments. What the heck happened? Do you think we're wrong? Do you think this is a bad move in by Jake? Do you think this is a good check raise by Mizrachi? Just let us know, because we are confused over here at Poker Guys headquarters. Let us know in the comments. We're going to respond to them right here.
Now, a thing that might have played into this hand is a hand that happened before this hand with these two guys in this tournament. We broke it down about 1 billion years ago.
Yeah, it's ugly.
Before you click, get ready. Just know that the production quality is not exactly up to snuff
It's
here.
a little bit lower than
But if
we
you
have
want to
right
see
now.
Never Bluff a Mizrachi, click right up there.
It's a great hand. It's definitely worth watching, especially having watched this one because the dynamics are all in play. But just forgive us on the sound and where we're standing, the
everything,
green
basically.
screen, the this, the that. We know. Also check out our podcast where we went into crazy detail trying to figure out this hand. Boy, did we talk about the check
We
raise,
tried.
ranges, Cody's moving in, all that stuff. It's called The Breakdown, presented by the Poker Guys. And if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel.